Yeah, I'd just like to analyse the final game from my final game from this year's Norwegian Championships. But before doing that, I'd like to say something about the championships. It has been a fantastic experience for me. I've really enjoyed it. There's 964 players who took part, almost 1,000 players. When you think about that, that's 500 chessboards that have to be set up every morning, 500 clocks, 1,000 score sheets, and 500 board cards that say who's playing on this board every morning. And I've really enjoyed going to the venue early and wandering around the playing hall whilst it's really quiet. There's nobody there, and just enjoying the still before the storm. But even when I've been an hour and a half, 2 hours early for the tournament, there's been very kind-hearted volunteers there who are doing these jobs that I've just spoken about. These volunteers without whom there wouldn't have been a Norwegian Championship in Bergen this year. I'd also like to thank the two host clubs, Bergen Chess Club and Søros Hugde Skole Shack, and especially the two leaders of the two clubs, uh, Eirik Gulaksen of Bergen Shack Club, Ola Valaker of Søros Hugde Skole Shack. Ola har varit speciellt den head organizer of the tournament. Done a fantastic job. Nice bloke, really enthusiastic chess player. And I'd say, with regards to both Eric and Ola, they're both international masters. They could easily have taken part in a high category in this tournament and produce some good chess, but they would rather devote their week of summer holiday to making sure that all of us, nesting at almost 1,000 players, have enjoyed ourselves with our week in Bergen. So thanks very much to them and to everybody else who has helped. Okay, we'll just look at the game then. So, e4 from me, of course. What else? c5, knight c3, knight f3, sorry, knight c6. And exactly as on Tuesday, I went for the delayed elapsing, and the things that I said on Tuesday apply. So, if you want to know more about it, watch the Life in the Old Dog video. That explains this quite well, really. Uh, so, but my opponent, third highest rated player in the tournament, uh, or fourth, a good player, 1700 and something FIDE rated, 1788 rated. He knows what he's doing. He's definitely seen this before. And he takes what's the favourite line here, which is to play d5. Uh, and then in this line, there's a lot of trade offs that happen in the middle, and it goes quickly towards a kind of drawish end game. And black is in a position to almost force through to the drawish end game, similar to the way in which black can force through to a drawish end game in the Berlin variation of the Royal Pes. So that's why you don't see this played often at the very highest level, this elapin or delayed elapin, because it is a little bit drawish, and it gets quickly more and more drawish. So I take. I have no choice. I can't defend it. No, I defend it. Then he's still going to take anyway. I take back, and he's going to take my queen, ruin my castle and position. No, it's just not. It's not good. So the move I play now is unusual, but it's good, and I think the fish would say it's the best move. And that's, oh, sorry, he takes the pawn, of course. Let's take back. And now I play knight to a3. And on a3, the knight has access to the c2 square, where it will have influence on the d4 square, on which a big battle is going to play. It also supports the bishop on f1, incoming to c4 to attack the queen. Also, I've got the chance to play to b5, where again I'm in with the knight. Again, I'm influencing the square d4 from there, and it gives me the lovely threat of playing knight to c7 check with a fork on the queen, rook, and king, or a family fork, as we say. But of course, that's not going to happen. This opponent isn't the opponent who falls for a family fork, of course. So he takes the queen straight back to d8 where it came from. Not a bad move, an unusual move. You know, I think he wanted to try and get me also what I'd planned. He'd done that already by turning up because I hadn't planned anything. I don't. But he's used two moves with his queen to be back where he started. So he's lost the tempo. And I was a tempo ahead from the start because I'm playing white. So if I lose a tempo now, then I'm still a tempo up, so that's good. So that affords me the opportunity to play with my knight again, and my knight now influences c4, and I have slightly better development than my opponent, who now plays a6. I suppose in a way, playing bishop to b5 and then taking the knight on c6 and wrecking his pawn position is quite a frightening prospect. So he doesn't want to let me do it, but it does weaken two diagonals. This diagonal and this diagonal, and I might just find a way to exploit that. Who knows? So, and also it doesn't contribute anything to his development or to the battle for the centre. And of course, I battle for the centre immediately with pawn to d4, and he plays e6 so that the bishop on f8 is now defending the pawn. So, you know me, development. You seen what I've done on Tuesday, same thing applies here. I can play bishop to e3, develop a piece, and develop another attack on the pawn at the same time. So that almost forces him to take. I take with the knight on c2 to allow the queen the chance, in some variations, to come to a4, possibly with a check, or possibly just to strike back at a piece which is on d4. But that's if he plays bishop to b5 c5 for example. But he doesn't. He takes the knight. Now I could take back with the pawn, but then I've made a mess of my pawns, and the pawn is isolated and a bit weak. I could take back with the knight, but then he can just chase the knight away with the pawn. So I could take back with the bishop, and the bishop would be in the same good position as 4. But I choose to take with the queen. I don't mind if we swap queens off, because I still have that a little advantage that my bishop would be in a better centre. His pawns are a bit weaker here, and I have a little lead in development. I have 3 pawns against 2 on the queen side, and he has 4 pawns against 3 on the king side. But my majority, the queenside majority, is maybe a little bit better than his, because at this precise moment in time it is more mobile than his majority, so I might be able to push them up and create some kind of kingside attack. As on the other side, he can push his pawns up and create what's known as a minority attack. But since it isn't a real theme for this game, I don't want to talk about minority attacks today, but it's worth bearing in mind the advantages and disadvantages with everything. So he swaps the queens off. He's ready to go into the endgame, but it's actually a queenless middle game, technically, because neither of us castled yet. So I take the queen, and he brings out the bishop, and I attack the bishop immediately, and I'm threatening to take it and do away with his ability to castle. And if he plays the bishop to c3 so that it's defended by the pawn, then I can just take it and give him doubled pawns. Fine for me. Better pawn structure. It's still not going to be enough to create a winning advantage. It just isn't. And he plays knight to f6. He's played this really, really well. I think when I looked at the evaluation, at the game review after it was finished, I think he'd played about 86% accurate. A couple of small things in the opening. So he develops his knight, and I come out with my bishop. Possibly I'm thinking of coming to f3 so that I can attack the pawn on b2, b7, which is probably his weakest point at the moment. So he plays bishop to e7, and I castle. Oh no, I play the rook to e1 first. Why do I play the rook to e1 instead of castling? Because he can play the bishop here, and threaten the rook immediately. And it's a bit stronger if he's castled. If he does it now, I just chase the bishop away with the pawn. And it doesn't, I'm not weakening my kingside with that. And also I've already moved this pawn, so the queenside pawns are a little bit weakened. So I move the rook and I not castle. And he plays bishop to c6. I can double the pawns now. He is threatening to take the pawn on b2. So either I take the bishop now, or I do something about the pawn on g2. And I do something about the pawn on g2 with castling. And he castles as well. And here, I offered him a draw. I know I've been declining draws all week and sort of having a win or bust attitude, but here, it's most likely that the knight takes the light squared bishop, the pawn takes back, and then the bishop takes the knight, and the bishop takes back, and then, even if I manage to win the pawn, I'm not going to win the pawn for nothing. And then we're in a bishops of opposite coloured endgame. Now, it is often said that in bishops of opposite coloured endgames, if there are rooks on the board, then there are winning possibilities. But there are winning possibilities for the player who has an attack. And I don't have an effective attack here. My opponent's not going to get an effective attack. So a fair and reasonable judgment of this position is that it's heading quickly to a draw. But my opponent said, no thanks, I'll play on a while. And so we played on a while. And the first thing I do is bishop to b6 to put pressure on the d8 square to stop him from being able to come there directly with his rook on this move. And he attacks my bishop with his knight. I take the knight. I do think, having looked at it thoroughly, he might well get away with playing knight takes bishop and I play knight takes bishop check, and I've got an extra piece and he moves his king, but I think he might well get away with it because the knight hasn't got a square where it can come out that isn't attacked, so he might get away with it. But also I might be able to attack the knight with the rook on e6, and then when the knight moves I might be able to play rook to e7, d7 to defend the knight, and then that might give me the possibility of taking the pawn on b7, and then the knight might get out. So he doesn't risk any of that. He takes the pawn. But no, I have a couple of little advantages. He has 1, 2, 3 pawn islands. I have 1, 2. His pawns are broken up on the queen side, so it's 3 pawns together against 2 broken pawns. It's a bigger advantage. And this pawn on c6 and this pawn on a6 are both isolated, so in that way they're a little bit weaker. So, but the problem is that my bishop is under attack, so I have to do something about that, and I play bishop back to that nice square which I fought over and won before. Now, it's a problem. He'd like to move his rook, but if he moves his rook, I take the pawn on a6. And then these pawns are a real powerful threat, so he doesn't want to do that. So he moves the pawn. And I think I'll get my bishop onto a better square and I attack his knight. And now he attacks with his rook. And I come up with what I think is a clever way of defending the pawn on b2. It's a clever little plan, which is I push the pawn to say c4 and attack the knight, and at the same time the bishop on d4 defends the pawn. I thought it was clever. I thought it was a clever little plan. The fish just laughs at me and says, "Grow up. You should have done this and this and this. That's the fish for you." But he didn't. But I'm threatening the knight, and here I think he should go either back to b6 and offer a swap, or to c7. But then I pick up this pawn, so b6 probably best. But he played knight to f4. See if you can find the problem with that move whilst I take a drink of my tea. I played the move almost instantly, but I am trying to be a little bit more careful, so I had a quick look first to make sure that it was okay. Pause the video if you need to find the move. And I played bishop to e4, and I'm attacking the knight and the rook, and he can't defend both. Can't come here with the rook, the pawn's in the way. He can't put the bishop in the way because it's attacked by the bishop and the rook. And he shook his head, and I shook my head. I felt genuinely sorry for him. I've been there many times a game of chess, and I've been there this week. And yeah, it was sad, but I didn't feel that sorry for him that I said the draw offer still stands. So he kind of, you could see from his head movements that he was looking through the last few moves and how he came here. And then he looked at his score sheet where he'd written down on your score sheet, you're just supposed to write the actual moves you make, but you're allowed to write down a note on your score sheet to say either that you offered your opponent a draw or that your opponent offered you a draw. And he looked down at his score sheet where 6 moves earlier I'd offered him a draw, and he gave a wry, sad little smile, stuck out his hand. We took each other in the hand. I began packing my stuff up, and I said, "Shall we talk?" I whispered, "Shall we talk about it?" He said, "No, no way." I understood. Would you want to talk about that kind of mess afterwards, especially when it wasn't 20 minutes into the day's play that it was finished. So, but luckily, after I'd been round and seen how it was going with the other players from the club and that kind of thing, I saw him outside talking with some friends. I went up to him, gave him a pat on the shoulder, and said, "That was tragic." And he laughed and he said, "That's life." So he was getting over it. He was getting over it. So that was great. But yeah, that was a good result for me, and that result led to me being 4th in the Norwegian Championships. I'm pleased with that result. My rating was that was the 5th highest rated in the tournament. Out from rating, you would expect that I should finish 5th, but my rating presentation was 1703. I'm rated 1688, so I played better than my rating would suggest, and I gained 8 points of rating from the tournament, and I had a fantastic time. And I hope you've enjoyed these videos, and I hope you remember to like, comment and subscribe. I'll just mention that in future I'll be making 2 videos a day. Not tomorrow, I'm travelling home tomorrow, but after that I'll be making 2 videos a day. One in Norwegian, one in English. Or at least the aim is to make 2 videos a day. One in Norwegian, one in English. One will probably be a 10-minute game which I'll play on chess.com. and the other will be an analysis of a famous game from the past, or a game which I think was particularly beautiful or which was particularly important. So I hope you look forward to enjoying those as well. But for now, and from the Norwegian Championship, it's thanks from me and bye.